Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Friday, May 22nd, 2020. It's pretty late. Wasn't planning on uploading, but I forgot that I already had planned to make this video, and I want to cover two new topics tomorrow. So today we're going to be talking about the polling data for the 2020 Senate elections. We don't have a lot of data for a number of states, but we do have some in some interesting states. On your screen right now, you can see pretty much the overall party composition if the Democratic Party holds true to all of the polling data, which means if polling data does turn out to be true, the Democratic Party should pick up 6 seats, effectively winning back the United States Senate at 53 seats to 47 seats. This is not realistic, honestly. The website I'm using is ourprogress.org/Senate. You can go ahead and check that one out. But the reason why I am covering this is because we don't really talk much about polling data. I always make 2020 electoral map based off polling data, based off of this new recent poll, Obama numbers based off a PPP poll. But today, we're going to be focusing on the Senate. I have discussed some Senate elections in the past in which I look at the states based off polling data, but now we actually get an overall map, and it does it for us. So that's really helpful. So first things first, let's go through all of the Democratic states that are pretty much expected to go to the Democrats. There isn't much polling data in Oregon, nor is there in Illinois. Virginia, surprisingly, doesn't have any substantial polling data. A lot of people agree that Virginia will be a safe Democratic state at this time. The Virginia GOP has pretty much rapidly faded into, I guess, nothing very recently and very quickly. And they really are having a very troubled time fielding good candidates, whether it's in the governor election, whether it's in the Senate elections in 2018. And same thing goes for the Virginia House races and also the upcoming Senate election. So Mark Warner, I think, is going to be pretty solid here. In the state of New Hampshire, there is polling data here. Jean Shaheen's ahead by 9% in the state. That's probably going to be the margin, to be completely honest. And she's only 1% away from 50%. I completely agree that New Hampshire will go to the Democrats. Michigan is another Democratic state. It actually is pretty close here. The state of Michigan, while being a Democratic state in 2018 and a Republican state in 2016, looks like it might actually end up going to the Democrats in 2020. Gary Peters, while not as popular as Debbie Stabenow, is still a pretty well-known incumbent. And also, John James recently lost a Senate election in 2018. If 2020 ends up being the same type of Democratic wave year that we might see, that we saw in 2018, it will 100% benefit these Democratic incumbents in a lot of these states. For Minnesota, Tina Smith, who won her election in 2018 after Senator, I almost said Amy Klobuchar, Al Franken resigned in 2018, and there was a special election, and then now this is the election to actually fill the 6-year term. Tina Smith will do a pretty good job on election day, though Amy Klobuchar did win by a much larger margin, or not much larger margin, by a larger margin. Tina Smith is still expected to carry the state, on election day. So pretty much all of those are pretty solid. New Mexico, there is polling data, but it is very solid for the Democrat. There is an incumbent retiring, an incumbent Democrat, but it looks like Ben Ray Lujan is going to go ahead and win that with 54% of the vote. I think it'll be a smaller margin, but I still think the Democrats will carry it. As for Republican states, this is interesting. Alaska's supposed to be close. Realistically, that's not going to happen unless Al Gross somehow does very well in comparison to what Joe Biden is expected to get in the state of Alaska. Going through a lot of these states, Ben Sass really realistically has no real opponent. But looking through a lot of these states, a lot of them are going to end up going to the Republican Party. Oklahoma, Arkansas, Tennessee, West Virginia. But Kentucky is expected to be a little bit close just because of Mitch McConnell's horrible approval rating and Amy McGrath seeming like she's a very strong candidate, though she did lose her 2018 House election bid. But, the Senate is a whole nother type of thing to tackle, but it is a presidential election year, and there isn't exactly too much energy for Democrats in Kentucky, but you never know. But I do think that the Republican Party will carry the state of Kentucky when all the votes are counted. As we move over into some of these other states, Alabama. This is a state expected to flip from D to R. Pretty much Tommy Tuberville, who is expected to win the Alabama primary, defeats Doug Jones based off this poll, 49% to 42%. Doug Jones is the Democratic incumbent who won in 2017 against Roy Moore. First time a Democrat won in the state of Alabama in 25 years, so it was a very big deal. But Alabama goes to the Republicans based off of polling data. When we go over to North Carolina, however, Cal Cunningham, the Democrat, ends up winning it. He does so by a pretty small margin, nothing compared to what the incumbent Governor Roy Cooper is expected to get, plus 15 margin statewide. But Cal Cunningham has a 3% lead over Tom Tillis, a Republican incumbent. So it looks like the Democrats might carry North Carolina based off polling data. For the state of Maine, Sarah Gideon has a very small lead over Susan Collins, who used to be the most popular senator in the country. Then it became Bernie Sanders, and then she became the second to last most popular senator in the country. So she went from rank 1 all the way down to rank 99. Actually, no, she is the most unpopular senator in the nation. I confused her with Mitch McConnell. Susan Collins went from being number 1 down to number 100 in terms of approval nationwide, so statewide. So Susan Collins, fallen out of favor with her constituency. 100% will have a close race, and I honestly think the Democrats might actually be able to carry it. It's Maine, and it's an election year, and it might be close in the presidential election, but you can bet the Senate election will be closer. As for the remaining states, so you might see some surprises on here. Georgia has a little yellow outline indicating a flip. For some reason, the Georgia special elections look like it's going to be a tie, obviously with 16% of undecided voters. That's not going to happen. In the general election, Jon Ossoff is not beating David Perdue. David Perdue, he was able to survive 2008, I believe, and 2014, and then now it's expected for 2020. Jon Ossoff realistically ran in the wrong Senate race. I honestly think he should have ran in the special election, would have a much better option, especially if Kelly Loeffler was the Republican incumbent, but it looks like Doug Collins will take that primary away, and David Perdue will win the race overall, but right now Jon Ossoff currently leads him based off of polling data. Going over to Kansas, Barbara Boiler. This is the only one I actually believe. This is the only one I actually believe. Chris Kobach is wickedly unpopular in Kansas. Have Republicans ever seen it in that state? She is a Democrat who has a realistic shot at the Senate only because the GOP frontrunner is a guy who just lost a 2018 governor bid. And when you're a Republican and you lose in Kansas, that's definitely the people telling you something. And the fact that the Kansas GOP has been actively trying to subvert Chris Kobach in his campaign for Senate elections, they are very, very confident that he is going to be the only Republican who could lose this Senate race, and it looks like the polling data does indicate that as well, which could be very interesting if the Democrats do actually take Kansas, because it puts them one step closer to the Senate majority. As we move over to the state of Montana, Steve Bullock, the incumbent governor, is now running against Steve Daines. I honestly think that this polling data will be pretty close to accurate. It's going to be a fairly close race. Steve Bullock won a statewide race alongside of President Trump in 2016, so it's not like he's afraid of running in a presidential election year. And keep in mind, in 2018, Montana sent a Democrat back to the United States Senate, Senator Jon Tester from Montana, won re-election in 2018. So Steve Bullock actually has a realistic shot. While it may be weird seeing Montana go Democrat, if you look at their electoral history, they have a Democratic incumbent governor, Steve Bullock. The Senate race might actually go to the Democratic incumbent governor, Steve Bullock, and the governor's race may end up going to the Democrats because the lieutenant governor is running. And in the House race, there's a retiring Republican, and it looks like the Democrats are trying to field a pretty good candidate in Montana's House election. So if everything goes right for the Democrats here, they win the governor election. They have 2 senators and a representative from Montana, which I don't think will happen. But the Montana Senate race, I honestly think, is the best bet for Democrats in Montana. And that would actually send 2 Democrats to the United States Senate from Montana, which would be phenomenal for the Democrats in terms of gaining numbers. And if you go over to Colorado, this I actually 100% believe. John Hickenlooper ran for president, former governor of Colorado, popular, dominating in his primary field right now. John Hickenlooper, 53% to Cory Gardner, 39%. Cory Gardner, surprisingly, is not the most unpopular senator in the country, though, based off his voting record, it looks like he should be. He aligns with the president way more than he actually should, considering the fact that he is not appealing to his constituency whatsoever. It looks like he knows he's on his way out. Colorado was a gain for the Republicans in 2014, but 2020, it may end up going to the Democrats, and it looks like polling data does indicate that as well. I'm pretty strong and firm in believing that John Hickenlooper will win the Senate race in the state of Colorado. Now for Arizona, Mark Kelly currently leads by 7% statewide. Again, Arizona, I think, will go to the Democrats. They have pretty strong candidates, very strong candidates, might I add, in a number of these states, whether it's North Carolina or it's in Colorado or Arizona or Montana or in Maine. They have strong candidates, and the Democrats only need 4 out of those 5, and it looks like they may actually, based off polling data, pick up 1 in Kansas, pick up 1 in Georgia, and obviously I don't think that's going to happen, but, the Democratic Party looks like they're putting up a good fight in a number of these states. They pretty much gave up Georgia when they didn't run Stacey Abrams as a candidate. She really didn't want to run. It won't be for anything if she's not vice president after Election Day, but, Georgia very well could have had 2 Democrats win there if everything went right for the Democrats, but obviously political parties don't make the smartest moves, especially since a lot of the money and the time is focused on defeating President Trump. I don't think they had really too big of an initiative to focus 100% on the Senate. But for right now, it looks like the Democrats are at 53 seats. The Republicans are at 47. If this actually ends up being the map, it will be very good for the Democratic Party, and we will be seeing a lot written about this election day, but I realistically don't think this is going to happen. It's going to be very difficult for Democrats to do. And, you know, when we're looking at these numbers, maybe 51-49, realistically 50-50 with Biden president. But other than that, 53-47 isn't that realistic. But it's just interesting to see based off the polling data. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all tomorrow.